We're going to pick up at the top of page 56. We've already started Photoshop, restored the default preferences, changed to a lighter interface, changed my pop-up window here to show me my current tool, and I've opened up O3 Start and saved it as O3 Working. And finally, I've hit Control-0 to fit my file to the screen. Let's get to selection. I'm going to start with my zoom tool so I can zoom in and see what I want. Z on the keyboard. And I'll come down here and I'll click and draw a marquee around that sand dollar, and that will zoom in on it for me. Come over here to the quick selection tool. If you're used to using the magic wand tool as your favorite selection, I'm going to argue that quick selection is even better. Let's see why. Quick selection tool, I'll put on the auto enhance option. And I'll come down here, and the quick selection tool uses a brush. I'll leave the default brush and click somewhere around here in the sand dollar, anywhere that has a sort of representative set of colors. One click and you're done. That was all it took to select the sand dollar. One click inside the appropriate area. Now let's zoom out and move this into the place we want to move it. That's our goal, is to make some selections and move them into the main image. I'll zoom out, use Control-0 to do that. Now I'll switch to the Move tool, V on your keyboard if you're working on shortcuts. And my goal is to move this sand dollar from here up into this area that is A, and leave a little bit of that darkened area showing behind it to look like a shadow. Let's do it. Click and drag. The selection moves with you, and I'll come to about here to leave a little drop shadow. After that, let's deselect with Control-D and then save our file. Next, let's try to select this plate of shells down here and reposition it up here. Let's zoom in so we can see the shells. I'll go back to the zoom tool, draw another marquee around that, and get a good close-up look at it. So we have a nearly perfect circle, which means we can use our elliptical marquee tool underneath the rectangular marquee tool to select. So in this process, we'll practice making a selection and then pausing halfway through our selection to reposition the selection and then continuing forward. So I'll use my elliptical marquee tool. I'll start from around here. This is really not the best place to start, but I'll click and drag and start dragging. And after I drag a selection, I can see that's not going to cover the plate. So I'll hold my space bar down, keep your mouse button pressed, and move the selection a little bit over here. Then I'll let go of the space bar, but keep the mouse button pressed, and continue to drag to try to get my selection. I'm pretty close. That's not too bad. So using the space bar is a good idea when you're in the middle of a selection if you need to move your selection around a little bit. I'm going to deselect, Control-D to deselect, and just do that same process again and give you one tip that's not in the book about selecting a circular area. The idea here is to think about a rectangle or a square around the circle, and imagine you'll be selecting from the upper left-hand corner of that square. So if we think about a square box around this round plate, the upper left-hand corner would be about here. Now I'll start my selection here and click and drag. As I click and drag down, I'll get pretty close to that plate without even having to move my selection. For the purposes of this exercise, we're not trying to get a perfect selection, so don't sweat it. But if you want to practice doing that elliptical marquee selection one more time, go ahead and practice a few times so you feel comfortable with that tool. Now we'll do something similar to what we did with the sand dollar. We will go and Control-0 so we can see our whole image. And our goal is to move the plate up to this circle here and leave a little shadow behind it. We use a different method of moving, the same idea. What we'll do is we'll hold down the Control key. And when we do that, you notice that there's a little scissors that appears there over your selected area. If you click and drag now with the Control key, that will bring it up. It'll let you click and drag and move it up. And again, I'll move it to right about here. So if you hit it exactly right on your drag, that's fantastic. But if not, you can always move your dragged object a little bit by using the arrow keys on your keyboard. Arrow up 1 pixel at a time, down 1 pixel at a time. Shift arrow will move it 10 pixels. So I'll arrow around until I get to something like the right spot. Sometimes that marquee, the marching ants as they're called, can be distracting, and you want to be able to hide them for a moment so you can get a better look at your image. Two ways to do it. The long way is to do View, Show, and Selection Edges. Turn them off. And again, View, Show, and Select Edges to turn them on again. I recommend the shortcut key Control-H will hide them. Control-H again will show them. Remember, if you hide them, I strongly recommend that you very quickly again show them. The problem is that if you forget to rehide them, you'll have a selection and not know it. That's going to limit what you can do in other areas of the image. Let's do a file save.